Okay, so I'm putting on final touches to the covering. We left off with some grass on, but I put all that grass on that was in that pile. And yeah, carefully layered that on, making sure to cover the crest or the top pretty well. And then I also put a cap of leaves on, trying to make sure that the top was sealed fairly well. If it poured, you'd stay dry for a while, and then you'd probably have some drips after a while. If it stopped raining, you'd be alright. The drips would stop. If it kept raining and really poured, yeah, you'd get drippy, you'd get wet. You'd be a lot better off than if you weren't inside of here. But anything less than a serious rain, and I wouldn't worry about being in here for the night. Especially if you have some good bedding, or if you packed the inside well because you didn't have bedding. To properly do the inside, you shove it full of the driest, nicest leaves or grass, and then you worm your way into the middle of it and pack it on all sides of you, just by getting your body in there. And then you would put another layer in there, shove it again, and do this, a few times to really fill out and make just a tight little cavity that's kind of compacted right around your body. Like literally in the pile of leaves. If you've ever jumped in a pile of leaves and stood in there, or not stood in there, but laid in a pile of leaves, it actually is really warm. I've been out nutting at night, gathering nuts, and had one of our boys get really cold and buried him in leaves while I finished nutting. If you're wondering why I was nutting at night, I'm not going to get into that right now. But yeah, you can literally bury somebody in leaves in a pinch and warm them up that way because it seals in all your body heat. So you would pack the inside. I don't often do that because usually I plan to sleep in it and I'm bringing bedding. And bedding honestly is a little more comfortable than being in a leaf pile with like leaves on your face and such. But I've done it and it's fun and wild. Out. You're not in the shelter video. So, I would call this done with the outside. There's a piece of bark here and that I wanted to mention because if you have access to a lot of bark, putting a nice shingled bark cap does really help shed rain off of it. That's kind of what the leaves are supposed to do, but if you have access to bark, like there's an elm over here that's dead. That, if you coax some of the bark off of it, would be a perfect source of some bark. I did not follow through with that, but you certainly could. And Weta, why don't you slowly walk over here and let's take a look on the inside. You can really figure out the inside really well, or like figure out the doorway well. I don't know if the light allows you to see in there, but it's pretty cozy. If you back up a little, I'll crawl in. What I was saying is you can make a nice doorway around it. You can put a bunch of Y sticks with a piece here and then put sticks across the top and shingle over the top of that, or just bury the whole thing in debris. It makes it tricky to get in and out, but in the winter that's important. You can also just have a bunch of grass here, or even pin between sticks and lashed a bunch of grass and just close a whole panel across the door. Those things do work, but this is about how far I can comfortably come in. This would be cozy, enough room for having my bedding around me or packing a bunch of bedding in here. It's flat, it's snug. This would be totally comfy for a night, and I do plan to make some use of this one of these next moonlit nights. Yeah, and there's very little light visible. If you see any light, I do see some right over here. That I would want to cover a little bit better with some leaves because I would have some rain coming through there. But the rest of it looks pretty dense. You'd definitely see light if there was openings, and there's not. So, that's fairly completed shelter. So, yeah, I think you have a pretty good visual of what a well-made shelter is. If you, well, I'm sure I'll write to you who are students and watching this as to the directions of what you'll be doing given your situation or what kind of woods you have access to. But this is what you want to do in a serious situation, and some version of this is what is effective in a situation where you really want to be sheltered well and kept warm. A big open lean-to, unless you have a fire really going in front of it well, isn't going to keep you very warm. And if you look over here, you know, I gathered a lot of my debris from this area right over in here. I was careful not to damage the plants. If I were to take my shelter apart here after this, I'd try to put the plants back. I pulled some garlic mustard. You know, in these ways we can try to be low impact about how we go about doing this. Yeah, and pay attention, enjoy your experience. Pay attention to the birds while you're out. Sometimes the birds, like a couple of sapsuckers who were here while we were building this, will actually be more trusting of you because you're engaged in doing something that they understand, just like the squirrels or deer or whatever, and they'll actually tolerate your presence at close proximity more than if you're like intently watching them or trying to get closer. So pay attention to what's going on around you, be good to the woods while you're building, yeah, and enjoy connecting with the outdoors while you're working on your shelters. All right.